He was forged from thunder, not laughter, a deity of ancient fire, not modern farce. When Thor first arrived, he was something primal, something ancient, something that silenced the room before he even spoke. His presence was prophecy, his silence louder than any line, a reminder that some heroes do not wear masks, they wear myth. He stood among mortals not as a man, but as a reminder of what power once meant. But somewhere along the Bifrost, his legend unraveled. The storms grew softer, the stories grew sillier. What once was divine became digestible. What once made the ground tremble now made audiences chuckle. They stripped the godhood, sold the spectacle, and forgot the soul. And the tragedy is, most people welcomed it with open arms. He was meant to fall, yes, all great heroes must, but not like this, not with a wink and a joke, not with the weight of grief played for applause. We watched a god mourn, and were told to smile. We watched a king crumble, and were handed a punchline. The fall of Thor should have shaken the heavens, but it barely stirred a laugh track. His pain was never funny. It was carved from centuries of war, from love lost and realms destroyed. He had every right to scream, to break, to vanish, but they wrapped it in color, drowned it in comedy, and told us to move on. They told us it was still Thor, but we knew better, deep down. We could feel the hollowness behind every forced grin, because behind the lightning, behind the armor, there was a man still searching for himself. And now, that man is buried beneath 1,000 memes, 1,000 moments of missed meaning, 1,000 chances to be something more. It is not the fall that broke him, it's that no one caught him with care, and maybe no one ever intended to. In this video, we uncover the truth behind Marvel's undoing of Thor, how a god of thunder was turned into a caricature, how myth was replaced by mockery, and why, no matter what comes next, it may be too late to bring the storm back to life. But if there's still a spark left in the sky, it might just be waiting for someone to remember who he truly was. There was a time when Thor felt like something more than a character. He was myth incarnate, thunder wrapped in flesh, a god not just in title but in presence. His arrival meant something, not just to the story, but to the world within it. Each step shook the ground, each word echoed with the weight of Asgard behind it. Audiences leaned in not because he was funny, but because he was untouchable. We were introduced to a being torn between realms, a prince struggling with pride, learning humility among mortals. There was depth behind the lightning, pain behind the bravado, a slow evolution of a deity learning to live like a man. That contradiction was powerful. That balance of might and humanity made Thor magnetic. It was never about jokes or catchphrases. It was about identity, belonging, and honor. The early chapters of Thor's saga carried the weight of legend. Somewhere along the way, that weight began to float away. The hammer grew lighter, the words less regal, the stakes more cartoon than cosmic. What was once a god started acting like a sidekick, laughing louder than he roared. And people cheered, at first, because it was refreshing, because it was different. Ragnarok was the turning point, where tragedy met humor and the blend actually worked. But even then, you could feel the ground shifting. The laughter was louder than the loss, the gags more memorable than the gods who fell. That film was a masterpiece of misdirection. It tricked us into thinking this new Thor was still the same, but he wasn't. We didn't notice the price we were paying, not right away. But with each movie, the myth was diluted. The hero became a mascot, the storm began to die, and now we're left wondering, was it worth it? He was never meant to be the punchline. Not when he was born from stars and storms. Not when his first entrance split the sky with a scream of thunder. But Marvel looked at a god and decided to make him goofy. They took a legacy of legend and turned it into a late-night sketch. What started as a clever tonal shift became a permanent reset. Every serious thread was unraveled by a joke. Every scar was covered with slapstick. It's hard to mourn when the funeral ends with a pratfall. It's hard to care when your hero forgets what he's fighting for. Infinity War tried to restore some balance. It gave him purpose again, vengeance again. And for a moment, we remembered who he was. We saw the pain behind the power, the regret behind the rage. But then came Endgame, and everything shattered. He became a meme with a magic axe, a man lost in grief, but the film asked us to laugh instead of listen. It mocked his body, his trauma, his failure, as if gods don't deserve dignity, as if jokes are more important than justice. And now the damage is done, not just to his image, but to the future. Because once a god becomes a clown, it's nearly impossible to believe in him again. There's something quietly devastating about watching a god fade into farce. Not through death, not through sacrifice, but through slow erosion. Every layer of meaning stripped away until only a costume remains. The tragedy isn't just in what he became, It's in what he lost. He lost Asgard, and we barely felt it. He lost Loki, and we barely paused. He lost his worth, and the world just laughed. Thor's descent wasn't framed like a downfall. It was framed like a sitcom, and that's the cruelest cut. Because pain demands respect. It asks for silence, space, reflection. But Thor's pain was drowned in punchlines. The thunder didn't stop, but it stopped meaning anything. And the man who once walked with kings now stumbled through gags. His grief deserved gravity. His struggle deserved stillness. But Marvel kept the camera rolling, kept the music light, kept the tone cheerful, as if emotional depth was a threat to pacing, as if we wouldn't stay unless we were smiling. We watched him unravel, and we called it growth. But it wasn't growth. It was abandonment. Thor wasn't just another Avenger. He was the embodiment of myth, a character who carried the weight of ancient power. He could command lightning with a whisper. He could shake planets with a strike. He was wonder forged into form. His world was Shakespearean, his dialogue grand and deliberate. Every choice he made echoed with centuries of consequence. He wasn't just fighting enemies, he was fighting fate, fighting prophecy, fighting legacy. That scope is rare. That kind of storytelling invites reverence. Thor's earliest appearances made you sit straighter, made you believe in something beyond science, something primal, something divine. Even his flaws felt epic. His arrogance was volcanic. His redemption was biblical. He was never just strong, he was symbolic, a vessel for exploring the burdens of power and the fragility of pride. But when myth becomes a meme, the scale collapses. The AEW disappears, and the sacred becomes silly. There's still a spark in the storm, a whisper of the god he once was, and maybe, just maybe, that whisper could rise again. Maybe Marvel will remember what made him matter, what made him more. The beauty of storytelling is that it's never truly over. Arcs can be mended, characters can rediscover purpose, even broken gods can rise again, not by lifting a hammer, but by lifting meaning. Thor deserves a return to depth, a journey into the soul he's hidden behind smiles. He doesn't need more battles, he needs a mirror, a reckoning, a reminder of the thunder in his blood. We've seen glimpses, in small moments, in silent stares, in flickers of pain behind the jokes. Those are the moments that matter. Those are the sparks worth chasing. Hope isn't blind, it's brave. And even in comedy, even in chaos, there's still a path back to power. But the path may never be walked. Not in this franchise. Not in this tone. The version of Thor that once stood atop the Bifrost has been buried beneath layers of irony. And Marvel keeps shoveling. This isn't just a creative choice, it's a consequence. Audiences were taught to laugh, to expect humor, to reject solemnity. And now, anything sincere feels out of place. Thor became a brand, a blend of punchlines and ABS. His soul was traded for marketability. His journey cut short for convenience, and the myth gave way to mockery. What's irreversible isn't the arc, it's the expectation. The damage isn't to the character, it's to the belief in what he could have been. The moment you laugh at a god long enough, you forget he was ever divine. And maybe that's the real tragedy. Not that Thor changed, but that we let him go, and never demanded him back.